So my name's Tori Palin, and I'm part of the 20th anniversary national tour of Rent and international tour. And I cover 5 roles. I'm the female swing for Mimi Marquez, Maureen Johnson, Mrs. Jefferson, Seasons of Love soloist, Mrs. Cohen, and Alexi Darling. So right out of the gate, a swing is essentially an understudy for primarily, so I'm the offstage swing for roles who are on stage and also covering principals. That's just essentially their role in an understudy, whereas a swing is just an offstage understudy, essentially. So the rehearsal process for swings, specifically the offstage swings, is very different because our rehearsal process is more from an observing standpoint when we're in the room. So when we were in our New York rehearsals, I was, just sitting and watching. Most of the times Marlise, our choreographer, when we were doing Santa Fe or Contact, she would try and get the swings up, and we'd do like a rotation. She'd have like group 1, group 2, have us switching in and out of tracks to make sure we got on our feet and got the choreography in our bodies. Whereas in terms of blocking and music, it was a bit more just on the side and just taking our notes, and all 5 of us swings kind of have our own way that we learn. So a lot of times I would just like have to stand on the side, and I would just be like mouthing the words and like doing some sort of hand movements and gestures that to me felt like I was getting movement in my body. And then whenever we had a break, we would, the swings and myself, we would kind of take advantage of having the space to ourselves. Everyone's on a break, but it was kind of our time to sort of like get up and play. So that was a bit of the rehearsal process, whereas everyone else being on the stage was able to kind of get it all into their body. But we were also able to have understudy rehearsals when we were in Orlando and Indianapolis, so we could get up on the set and really move around, and we sort of shocked ourselves of how much we actually knew from just like sitting and learning and rehearsing in a way that was different to me than ever before. So off stage, I'm not performing in the show when the show is happening. So I'm totally off stage. I will only be put on stage whenever I need to go on for one of the tracks that I cover, whereas an on-stage understudy is one of our roles. For example, the girl who is playing Alexi Darling is also an understudy for Mimi, but she is performing each night as Alexi Darling. For me personally, I feel like it's exciting just because I've known this show for so long, and I feel like it's a part of who I am as someone who just appreciates the arts, someone who loves New York City, someone who's in musical theater. So I feel that, and I've done the show before, and I feel that the music and like a little bit of every character is in me, so that the pressure more comes from maybe in the room when we're in front of the creatives and we're performing. I'm like, oh my God, I hope I'm doing this right. But when the cast is performing or when I get to go up and do my thing, it's just more of an excitement because I know how much this show means to people universally. I've just heard, from our Mimi and Roger, Derry and Logan going to China, like how crazy people were going for it. So that's even just more exciting, how excited our audiences are about it, and that this story is still meaning something to people today. And that's really exciting to be a part of that. I believe, yeah, it was 2006. And I know that because I was in the 6th grade, and it was when I just had met my best friend, Adam, and he's the one who introduced me to Rent. We were sitting at his house, and on his like Dell desktop, his screensaver was Angel from the movie. And it was, on like a desktop when you can have it like tiled. So it was like 20 angels, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, is that a man dressed as a woman? And he's like, yeah, it's a drag queen. And I just had never seen a drag queen. I never heard of a drag queen. And I was like, that costume is like so cool. I was like, what is it? Just, it's so funky. And he said, yeah, it's from the musical Rent. It's from the movie. And I was like, I'd never heard of Rent before. And he's like, okay, that's it, we're watching it. And we watched it, and I was just absolutely mesmerized. I just had never seen anything like that before. And I remember going home to my mom. She's like, oh, what did you and Adam do? I said, he showed me Rent. And she starts talking about it. I was like, why didn't you ever tell me about Rent? I was like, I was just so taken by the movie. And then I was just curious from that point forth what it looked like on the stage, knowing that it was a musical before it was a movie. And then I just YouTubed you know, YouTubed it and like wanted to read about it, and you know, any chance I could see it. It wasn't really produced anywhere around where I was until I was right before I was going to be in the show. My college drama club did a production of it, and so I went and saw it. It's like in the lounge, and I was like, any chance to see it? I was like, just to hear the music before I go and do it. So nothing has surprised me because I have a lot of friends who have done tour stuff, and I picked a lot of people's brains beforehand, and I knew, you know, like, I kept my mind very open going into this, so I think that's why nothing sort of surprised me, knowing that, okay, we're gonna be on a bus for 8 hours, and then we have a show that night, and then we're gonna be tired, and then we have to get up for a flight, and you know, things are run. I knew it was gonna be like, you know, they run it, it's a very well-oiled machine, the way management runs everything, and I knew there was an expectation to be fulfilled, so I feel that I really mentally prepared going into it with an open mind and knowing I need to be professional and to show up ready to work. It didn't take me by surprise. What did take me by surprise was like, I am a relatively healthy person, and I take care of myself, and I take vitamins, and I, you know, work out and stuff, but I think that just changing environment is what took me by surprise. Maybe that's the thing, because I got a little upper respiratory infection while we were on the road for 4 weeks, and I was like, I'm not even performing. I'm like, I'm sitting backstage every night watching, and I'm drinking water, and I was like, how did this happen? So just another level of taking care of myself. I guess it came to a surprise to me, like, oh, okay, like, I need to hydrate more. I should have a humidifier for my hotel room, because hotel rooms are super dry and airplanes are really dry. So just another part of the whole like wellness and care. And even though I'm not performing, sitting in cold, dry rooms, and I wasn't, maybe because I wasn't as active maybe during the show, because we're sitting backstage and I try and like follow people backstage to feel like I'm in the show. I'm like, I'm being active, you know, I feel like I'm a part of this. So maybe that was the only surprise for me, but tour life in general was something that I kind of was like, I know I have to take it as it comes and just go with the flow sort of a thing and be flexible. So anything that happened that was a bit jarring, I was like, okay. I was like, this is part of the job, so you know, gotta go with it. My routine, I like to get a workout in before rehearsal, or just even if I know I'm not going to have a rehearsal, just because management and people who I know have toured before just said you have to be ready for anything. And so, you know, God forbid, 10 minutes before the show someone like twists an ankle or something happens and my body's cold and I don't feel like ready to go, I know I'm not going to give my best performance, because before I sing or do any sort of activity, I like to have broken a sweat before doing anything. Keeping a healthy diet, that's something that before going on the road, I knew we were going to see a lot of fast food restaurants. I don't have a kitchen, so that sort of a thing. Finding the nearest grocery store and, you know, trying to eat the way that I do when I'm home and not eat late after the shows. That's a really hard thing to do when people just want to go out afterwards because everyone's really hungry. So just trying to keep a healthy diet and take vitamins and drink a lot of water. I know the people who've been on the tour for the past year, they came into rehearsal with like a gallon of water, and all of us had our little water bottles. We said, they must know something we don't know. We're like, we must need to hydrate extra because the theaters are super dry, hotel rooms are really dry, we're on the go. It's a show, the show is such a marathon, so really watching how Lindy, our Maureen, and Logan, our Roger, and Marcus, our Benny, you know, how much they're moving around and stuff and how they take care of themselves. It's been really great to learn from them how to take care of themselves on the road. Also, I'm learning a lot about mental health, especially as a swing. It can be really difficult sometimes to sit backstage and want to be up on the stage so badly, because performing is my passion, but this is a show that I love, and to be near Rent in any capacity is great. So sometimes sitting backstage and really wanting to be up there, trying to find the joy in the experience, in the bigger part of the experience, and just performing has been something for me that I really need to like make sure I take the time to do, to say, I'm so lucky to be where I am. Look at these people that I get to watch tell this beautiful story every day. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And that's the other thing, that working out makes me feel really good, and journaling and exploring the towns and the cities that we're in, and just trying to have new experiences, to feel like it's not just about rent. It's also about more than that, and the experience, and how the traveling and the new relationships I'm making, how those can fulfill me as well as the show, and like where I can make that blend to a place where I feel fulfilled and at peace and ready to do my job. Okay, I'm 95% sure my first Broadway show was Tom Sawyer. And I was like 4 years old. My dad, I grew up in New Jersey, and my parents are super into music and the arts. And my dad took me to see my first couple Broadway shows. It was either Tom Sawyer or Peter Pan. I can't quite remember. It's one of those, but it's kind of a blur. I think that fans are going to, I think fans are going to take away how important it is to be a part of a community, and that there's a lot of strength in that, and in friendship, and opening yourself up to things that are different. I think watching the cast every night, I've now seen the show from quite literally every angle. I've sat in the audience, I've watched stage left, stage right, I watched them tell the story from behind. And I really have seen that the way, the energy and the chemistry of my cast, we're very, very close, and we all have a very generous quality about all of us, and that's something that I see when I see them sing Seasons of Love, or in the opening number inviting the audience to come into our world and come in and share this experience with us and to tell the story with them. I think because of the close bond that the cast has, you can see that in each of their characters and the relationships that they have. And I know I get a really strong feeling of that when I try and take myself out of being a part of it as an audience member. And I feel that that's one thing the audience can take away from that, especially in the way that things are going right now in our country and our world. That community means a lot, and we really have to stand together, and that love always wins. It will always win, and it'll always be there. It's always alive. It just takes a group of people to come together to have one voice about it, and I think that's something that will go unsaid to our audiences in Japan, China, the United States, all through what I believe my cast, the unique quality that the cast has, is going to share with the people who see the show. Ultimate dream roles. Rizzo in Grease. That's a no-brainer. I want to be Rizzo so badly. I just love her spice and her sarcasm, and I think There Are Worse Things I Could Do is such a powerful and vulnerable song, and I just know, I just love singing that song, so that's a role I'd love to play. Oh, I would love to be the baker's wife in Into the Woods. Would love to be the baker's wife in Into the Woods. And I know there's a role that I want more than this, but now I'm in like Sondheim world. When I'm like 40, I want to be like Mrs. Lovett till the day I die. I was like, that is just, I played it in high school, and it was like the most fun I ever had on stage. And I just saw the production with the Barrow Street, at the Barrow Street Theater, the immersive production, and I hadn't really seen it in years, and it just reminded me of like how brilliant of a show that is and how like whacked out Mrs. Lovett is, and I just think it's such a fun role. So those are three very different but like amazing female roles that I would love to do one day. But one really memorable experience was when we had in Orlando, our first time understudies went on, and our Josh, who plays Gordon, he had to go on for Mark, and then one of our male swings, James, had to go on for Gordon's track, so they kind of both put them up like that. And when Josh went on for Roger and was singing one song, Glory, I kid you not, like the whole cast was on stage left, just like everyone was like holding hands and crying watching him sing it, because that's one of my favorite songs in the whole show, and I just think Roger's such a cool and complex character. And knowing how, I mean, and the theater in Orlando was like a 2,700 seat theater. It was huge, and we were sold out like every night, and knowing that with only like 15 minutes notice to curtain, Josh had to just kind of get in his zone and go out and do that, and just watching him do that song and being there with everyone, you could truly feel all this like support going to him. And there was one time he had this little lyric flub, and we were all like mouthing like, got it. We're like, oh my God. Everyone's crying backstage, and it was just such a beautiful moment. And I was like, wow, what a supportive group of people that I'm with. Like, I wouldn't want to be telling this story with any other group of people. So that was a really beautiful and really special memory. And then also seeing so James, who's a offstage male swing, one of them, he's my roommate. And so seeing him go on for Gordon and doing Seasons of Love, that was just really special. And it was amazing to feel like new energy on the stage. Like there was something different that night, and it just kind of showed that when different people are playing the roles, something shifts, and everybody has to, it kind of keeps everyone on their toes, and it makes everybody adjust. And I think that's really cool and exciting. I know I'm excited to go on and see what that shift is, either from me or how other people react to me being there and my chemistry with people. That was a bit of a long-winded answer, but it was a really beautiful memory to see something fresh happen, and to know that we are a supportive group, and to see someone tell the story different was really exciting. I mean, and it's gonna happen because like 5 roles, my brain's like, there was a scene when Mimi and Maureen are talking to each other, and I was like practicing, and I was like, they're both so like distinct that I don't get them confused, but sometimes it's a bit, I get Mrs. Cohen and Alexi's, in the beginning I sort of got some of their staging mixed up, and the other female swing and I would be sitting blocking contact, and I'm like, doesn't Alexi do this? And she's like, no, it's Mrs. Cohen. I was like, but I feel like Mrs. Cohen does this. She goes, I feel like she does that too. And we're both like, oh God, we're screwed. I'm like, can I ask a question? And so sometimes we get them mixed up, but I kind of came up with a system for myself where I like color coded each character and made up completely different track sheets. And I have really crazy notes that probably look like a different language to someone else, but they make sense to me. So I've been able to kind of compartmentalize and organize my thoughts in that way. So that was the only time where there were some mix-ups, but they're such different characters that I feel like I know, and I'm like, yeah, no, she definitely enters from there, and then like she enters from there, and yep, yeah, that sounds about right. So that's kind of how my brain's working around all of this. Truthfully, since I'm so familiar with the show, it was really actually very easy for me to, I know like the music to the show, I know like Colin's songs, I know like every lyric to the whole show. So in terms of that, it wasn't a struggle. And Mimi and Maureen, I feel super familiar with. It was the 3 ensemble tracks have been the most difficult to learn, to also develop my own, relationship to myself, to the 3 of them individually, and how they are distinct people. So that has kind of been the most challenging of the whole learning process, is being able to like individualize these 3 other tracks, because in my mind I so know who Mimi is and I so know who Maureen is, and I kind of didn't know how to define these other 3 characters, and I think that's why it seemed like a bit slower of a learning process for me getting into the 3 of them, which is why I knew I had to focus the most on them, because they felt the least familiar to me. But now I feel like I know all 5 of them pretty well, and I'm excited to really explore them when I have a chance to do them on stage. I have to say I've really been having the most fun exploring Maureen, because I think she's such an iconic role, and one that I always felt I related to, but I wasn't quite sure if I would play a Maureen. And then when I was given the material to really take seriously and work on, I found things about her that I really relate to, and things about her that I'm like, we're so different, and where can I make that feel true? And it's just been so fun to work on Over the Moon, and to kind of, it's also been really fun to watch Lindy do Over the Moon, and to watch Samantha, the other Maureen understudy, do Over the Moon, because the three of us are so incredibly different as people, and we all have really different takes on Maureen and our relationship to Joanne. And I've learned so much from watching the both of them, and it's been really fun to kind of try things that they did that maybe don't work for me, and then develop my own sort of a stuff. I feel like she's such a free character, so I've had a lot of fun, like, being playful with all my choices with her. So that's been really, really such a joy. So for this first leg, I really was super like hyper focused on the show, because I knew we were about to have a 6-week layoff, and it was just our first kind of rodeo and our first take on it all. And even though in rehearsals I knew from the front looking on what the tracks looked like, I knew also how much went into their like backstage tracking and choreography, and like how they cross backstage, and where they pick up their prop, and where do they set their prop, and where is their costume put, and which changing booth are they in, and where do they get their makeup, and when do they take a water break, and all that sort of stuff. So I spent a lot of time backstage. It was more beneficial for me to be back there than watching it in the house, because I feel like I already was like, all right, I know what it's supposed to look like, and how does it kind of feel, and how and since the girls that I'm covering, they've kind of gotten in a groove already, it's been nice to kind of see that, observe that as well, and learn from, you know, their technique backstage and that sort of stuff. It just I felt like anytime I was kind of chilling backstage, I was like wasting an opportunity to like really make sure I knew it, because I know it on paper, but then just like sitting there or standing backstage and watching them and kind of humming along backstage was something that really helped me, especially for this super long layoff. But I'm sure once time goes on, I brought a really good book to bring to Asia, and you know, I'm sure like every now and then I'll like pop on a Netflix show, but it feels most important to kind of focus on the work while I'm still don't feel like I quite have it all under my belt. So that was my experience the last time. I'm sure that's going to shift, or maybe I'll just keep watching it backstage, because I do love watching the show every night also. It's just so fun to watch them have like a really good time, and like watch the audience watch them. That's also like my favorite part. It would have to be Sean Ryan.